welcome. Welcome to dissolving pain in nature's flow. And if you're joining today in any kind of pain, we'll be holding it and perhaps being with it in some ways that can surprise us with the shifts in our perception. And also just to know that you don't have to be in pain here to practice this, so that today's session we can pick any sensation and work with that, and that can actually become a foundation for those times that are going to be inevitable, where we will be in physical pain. Also, in this series, we will be discovering maybe some ways that what we think of as emotional pain can be found and felt and flowed with in the body. And this is a special series of the Hour of Presence practice. It's a very heartfelt one for me because working with pain was really my training ground in meditation. What got me motivated, shall we say, and willing to do long sessions to discover this capability that I would have never known that I had without the work and the books of Dr. Fehmi, author of Open Focus and Dissolving Pain in Open Focus, and one of the leaders, pioneers in early biofeedback. And so it's in his memory and with much gratitude that I will be sharing some of these practices, some of these possibilities here today. And what has happened in my own journey, so this hour is going to actually reflect quite a bit of my own journey, is after maybe about 5 years of this kind of meditation, open focus meditation for working with chronic pain. I then met Master Wanchul Park, Tai Chi master, who in a way just allowed me to feel more simply at peace with some of the magic, the kind of the strangeness of, I feel my fingers and I feel space, and then suddenly my pain perception so shifts. And it always, as grateful as I was for it, and as much as it could be, say, explained by neuroscience, might bring in some quotes and passages from leading pain researchers. It's a really fascinating topic about our perception of pain. But what I was experiencing was kind of, it seems a little bit inexplicable, maybe a little bit like, what is actually, what is it? And the way that Master Park teaches Taoist, Tai Chi, Taoist meditation, where the whole process is really this process of clarifying our perception more for the way things are. And that there's these underlying qualities of nature that are part of my hand, part of this room, part of the tree outside my door, and part of my pain and my experience of pain. And so what we can begin to explore here is how, by letting ourselves feel those underlying qualities of nature's flow that are us, that are our presence, and that include our pain, not excluding anything, that our perception of our experience naturally shifts. And so that can be a tremendous relief. And we can also have a simple underlying understanding and guidance for how we can practice that. So, dissolving pain in nature's flow. We will begin, and we will be spending the first half optional, either sitting upright in a chair or sitting cross-legged or lying down for sure. I have done a lot of lying down meditation in my experience. And if you're lying down, you might bolster underneath your knees. Just let yourself be really comfortable. And actually, we will probably all join in lying down for the second half, simply as a way to more fully send that signal to our whole system that this is not about trying. It's about letting go and opening and being with what is as it is. And as we get into these practices, sometimes we can do them open-eyed, but to begin with, recommend closing the eyes. It can help us feel more on the inside. And then we'll be spending, as we always routinely do, spending the first 30 minutes going through and touching in on these qualities of nature's flow that are part of our every experience. And before we really get underway in that process, for the second half, there's going to be some sensation in our experience that we'll choose to work with. Literally, I'll just be referring to it as the sensation. And so just taking a moment to scan your body from head to toe. And if there's a physical pain sensation, noticing where that sensation is in your body. We'll go into this more in depth later on, but just taking a first inner look. And if you're not currently experiencing a physical sensation of pain that's clear in your experience. We'll give some options later, but one option will be the sensations at your heart center, or we might work with some sensations of contact. Give those options later. If you are working with a more painful sensation, just taking a moment here at the beginning to subjectively rate that experience of the intensity of the pain on a scale from 1 to 10. 10's the worst pain you've ever experienced. 1 is kind of there. Totally subjective, just for your own awareness. And now for the next few moments, just really listen to my voice. Kind of strain outward to hear my voice. A sense of feeling like you need to pay attention to my voice. And then as I continue to talk, then give your attention to your right toe. As I continue to talk, you're actually giving more attention to your right toe than to my voice. And now I'm going to just continue to talk. Kind of hard to continue to talk about what am I going to say next, but I'm going to continue to talk and just seeing what it would be like to not focus strenuously, to pay attention to my voice and not focus on something else like your toe, anything else. Just neither focusing on nor focusing away from this sound of my voice coming into your experience. And just letting it effortlessly evoke for you a sense of invitation to feel more inclusively, to take it all in. And this mode of perception, neither focusing upon nor focusing away, is actually going to be the key for a different way of relating to pain. Neither focusing upon nor focusing away. And just letting ourselves breathe a couple of full, deep breaths. And a sense of opening, feeling into the out breath. And that sense of just let it go on the out breath. A sense of release. Letting go of the shoulders, letting the shoulders feel heavy. Letting go of the hands. The hands can feel heavy, however they're resting. And a sense of letting the whole of your body settle. And let go into the support. Sinking a little bit more into the support beneath you. Let's take 3 out breaths where we feel like we can let go and settle and lay down into support a little bit more with each out breath. How the ground meets us, holds us. We can let go into it. And let's take 3 breaths where we feel like we can really receive, take in, breathe in, let into our body the support from the ground. Since that force of support is coming all the way into our body, if we're sitting, it goes all the way to the top of our head. We can almost feel like we're breathing in that support. And then let's alternate with the breath. On the out breath, feeling the settling. On the in breath, taking in the support. Repeating that a little bit more fully. Settle. Take in the support. Settle. Let go. Receive. And then pause. Continuing to breathe. But neither focusing on the settle or the support, nor focusing away from it. Just letting it be part of our being. almost like we can melt the divide between lay down and support. And open to how they are actually simultaneously arising. Indivisible in their togetherness, even at the level of forces. And this is the mutual flow quality of nature that we might first feel between our body and the ground, and is the mutual flow of every interaction, however small. So now we begin to turn towards that quality of nature, which is how it's these limitless flows within flows that have this intrinsic freedom that we may see in, say, the flow of water, and that we'll practice feeling first in the flow of air of our breath itself. And that is everywhere in how nature arises. And so to feel into the fineness of nature's flow, we begin to feel at the nose. And perhaps fittingly, I'm getting a muscle cramp in the midst of dissolving pain session. How perfect is that? So continuing to feel the breath at the nose. And if you're familiar with the alternate nostril breathing, you're welcome to go into that aspect of the practice. With each breath, or seeing what it would be like to feel the finest little puff of sensation there in the nose. That smallest clue of the flow of air coming in into that nostril space, and out of that nostril space. An open inquiry into the finest flow we can feel. Right in the sensations of these puffs of air comprised of flows within flows, ever finer flows. Moving between the space around us, through the space inside our nose, and into our inner space. And noticing if in this looking for the finest flow, our eyes are getting engaged, though they don't need to be. It's going to be our sensitive skin inside of our nose and not our eyes that feels this flow. And to help further relax the eyes, just feeling the space in between the eyes as one continues to open to the sensations in the nose. And letting the space between the eyes feel wide. Maybe even noticing the space between your eyes and the back of your head. And what might it be like to feel that space to the back of your head and between your eyes and inside of your nose, all as part of your experience. Not focusing upon or away from any of them. And then gradually letting the alternate nostril noticing fade. You were practicing that way. And feeling the air coming in through your nose and in and down into your body. Taking a couple of in-breaths. If you'd like, might even feel that sense of the in-breath reminding you of the fullness of your body coming down inside you. Feeling all the way down, even to your seat on the ground. And then for the next couple of out breaths, feeling the cascade, the downward cascade of the chest down to the belly as you breathe out. Even though it may be hard to feel at times, our body is also flows comprised of ever finer flows. Our body space is filled with these flows. Is the being of these fine interbeing of flows. And so we let ourselves begin to feel that by evoking the sense of the free flow of the breath on the in-breath, feeling it come down inside of us. And then almost like extending that same feeling of free flow to the front body as it cascades down. Fine free flow on the in-breath. Fine free flow of the body on the out-breath. May even like to slightly picture the space cavity of your lungs filling with air, fine free flow filling that inner space. And on the out breath, yeah, it's a little more solid for sure. But even solids are fine free flows. Just like we might see with a tuning fork that's vibrating. But here we're just feeling the wave-like cascade of these fine, free, interconnected flows. As we breathe. And then letting that part of the foundations practice kind of fade out. We're still going to continue to use the breath to feel more finely into our body and let ourselves feel the length and space that these free flows of our body take up. And for this, we go into the finger by finger, breath by breath part of the practice. So on the next out breath, slightly elongating the thumbs, feeling to the tip. And then on the next out breath, feeling the length of those fine free flows all the way to the last flow of our fingertip on our pointer finger, and continuing finger by finger, breath by breath for several rounds. The elongation is very subtle, just a way to help us feel the length in space of those fine free flows we call our fingers. Bringing a certain curiosity to where the fingertip ends. So at the very end of the out breath, it's like we've reached the very end of that finger. Where if we go a little bit beyond that, we would be in non-finger land. Beyond our finger, the space beyond our finger. But inside of that, we are inside the space of our finger. Just noticing if you're trying to look at your fingertips. And again, let the space between your eyes feel wide. And then what would it be like to take the looking out of the equation, since it's not needed at all? It's your fingers telling you sending those signals that let you know where your fingertip ends. Right there at that place of the fingertip ending, touching the air just beyond it. And for those of you who are familiar with the full routine of the foundations, we're going to carry over a little more of the sense of the whole flow quality into this transition where we'll lie down and we'll go on our adventure to see how feeling these qualities of presence, and especially the whole flow quality of space and length, space between, just length, space inside, which is volume. how this can help shift and clarify our perception, including our perception of pain. So you're welcome to gradually transition, if you are not already lying down, to a lying down position. And letting the arms be out at the sides, comfortably resting on the ground. Or if that at all overextends the elbows, another option would be to put like a blanket underneath your hands to let them feel more at rest, more supported, kind of like a bolster for your hands. Or you can put them on your kind of like your hip area and rest them there. Wherever you find yourself, just making sure that it feels, as comfortable as possible. And then letting the hands be a little bit flipped towards the ceiling, not all the way towards, but where you feel your hands can have a little bit of space to move. And feeling the space in between the fingers, which is something that we'll be doing. And taking a couple of breaths here. Letting yourself settle more fully on the out breath. Giving your weight to the ground. And receiving that 100% support of the ground. And then letting that include your arms draping upon the floor, and even the heaviness of your hands, however they're resting comfortably. And let's return to breathing out and feeling, this time just to the tip of the thumb. Repeatedly finding that place where thumb meets air around it, right at the tip. Coming to know that place, the tip of your thumb. To know it even experientially. Like we have a kind of cartoon image in our mind of, oh yeah, I'm feeling my thumb. But letting this be like a freshness of, what do I actually feel? The signal in space that marks the place. This is where my body ends and the space around it begins. Inside, classified as thumb. Outside, classified as space in the room. But there's that experiential, raw signal before those classifications even kick in. Continuing to breathe. And let yourself actually feel what you feel, not what you think you feel. This is a process that even artists go through. Actually draw what they see rather than what they think they see. And part of that's letting go of labels, expectations, a willingness to be curious about the rawness of that perception. Now, shifting off of the thumb and repeating this process of, I could say, investigation with the pointer finger. Breathing out and finding that knowing, experiential knowing beyond that point is absence of finger. Before that point is presence of finger. And so we switched from thumb to pointer finger. And now an invitation to keep pointer finger and invite the thumb to rejoin. So as we breathe out, we're feeling to those tips of all four fingers all at once. And if you would be interested in kind of heightening or even a little bit more the feeling at your fingertip, can do a couple of breaths where feeling almost as if the breath is coming in and out of all four fingertips. The sensitivity of these fine free flows. Comprising our fingertips. And now letting go of the breath, which was this aid to help us wake up to that sensitivity of the free flow comprising our fingers. And ever so slowly moving our fingertips so that there's about an inch or two, maybe 5 centimeters in between the tips of our fingers on both hands. Just marveling for a moment how to feel that distance, that length in between. You were already feeling all 4 fingertips all at once. And as part of this process of shifting into a more open and immersed, a less effortful and conceptual mode of perception, we're going to play with that feeling of space between. And this comes directly out of Dr. Fehmi's open focus guidance. And so letting ourselves actually just feel the space in between the fingers. And to kind of confirm for ourselves that we are, in fact, feeling that space, you can go ahead and make that space a little bit wider. A little bit smaller. Letting the movement be very subtle. And just repeating that a couple of times. To kind of reassure ourselves, yes, we can feel the space between things, the space itself. And the wonderful thing about feeling the space between is that perhaps you can kind of recognize this in your own experience by feeling the space between our fingers, our fingertips on both hands. We're neither focusing upon our fingers. If anything, we're focusing on the space between. Nor are we focusing away from our fingers. Actually, our fingers are effortlessly sending their signals, which is how we can feel the space between them. And because this is a different mode of perception than we might be used to, again, just noticing if you're looking down at the space. The space does not need the assistance of our eyes. It doesn't need any reference from above. And as we feel into the space between our fingers, almost letting ourselves feel as though we could bask in that space between our fingers. Just bask in it. It wafts over us. And taking a moment here to scan our body for the sensation, perhaps a sensation of pain. And as you continue to let yourself bask in the feeling of space between your fingers on both hands, once again giving a rating on a scale from 1 to 10, your subjective experience of that pain sensation. And though this is for sure a practice, because we have been spending the majority of our days and our life, especially in our modern world, in a narrow, focused attention, which can only focus upon or away. It can take time for us to shift over and to deepen the sense that we do have another option. Probably a million years ago, this was more of our default mode of perception, open, inclusive, effortless. Like basking in the space between our fingertips. And it can be interesting how before we even, shift to relate to the pain signal or sensation differently in any way, so often people who would do this practice with Dr. Fehmi would experience shifts just by feeling space in between their fingers. Because it's shifting our mode of perception. And it can allow it to be more whole and inclusive, giving a broader context for any sensation we might be experiencing without zeroing in on it or trying to zone it out. I invite you now to feel how the space between your fingers is part of the larger space of the whole room. To the ceiling, to the sides, the space that is above your head to the wall opposite, and the space below your feet to the other wall. How your body, my body, all of us are ensconced, wrapped up, held in this space of the room that we're in. So there's the space all around our body, the space between our fingertips of our thumb and pointer finger. And then there's the space inside our thumb and pointer finger. And the space inside all of our body. To the edges of our skin. Meeting the space all around us. And while feeling the space all around us and the space between our fingers and the space occupied by our fingers and our whole body, feeling the space that the sensations inside your body take up. So this means we find where those sensations are in space. And we become aware of the space that they take up. Is it the size of a baseball? More like a frisbee? What's the space inside which there's those sensations? And can use your heart area as an option, or can use the sensations of your ground touching the back. And just for a moment, go on a little imaginary possibility. What would it be like if you were not looking down into that space? What if you felt like you were right in the midst of that space occupied by those sensations? And if you need a moment to kind of travel down, and take a moment, go on an imaginative journey so that you are coming to be right in the inside of that space, of those signals. Those sensations, and immersed in, bathing in the space that those signals take up within the space of your body and within the space of the entire room. All those spaces all at once, and you immersed inside the space of those sensations. And as you continue to breathe, letting yourself feel how it's all one whole space. And those sensations and the space that they take up are not separate from your body space, which is continuous with the whole space of the room. You may like to feel as though you're breathing in and out through those sensations. In this one whole space. Of room, of body, and of the space your sensations occupy all at once. And if this is something you choose to continue to rest into and practice with, even right here, right now, how this whole inclusiveness of the space around you, within you, and within the sensations, while feeling the free flow of the breath in and out. And while feeling immersed in your own experience, not a bystander, but right being with from the inside out. That this is the context of feeling nature's flow and the qualities that are ever present. That without trying to push away or resolve our more difficult sensations in any way, can give a context in which our perception clarifies. And in that clarity of perception, we may experience those sensations differently. And this completes an hour presence. And if you were using the subjective rating, checking in once again. What's your number? Knowing that sometimes this practice will encourage it to actually flow instead of feeling stuck, and even spread and feel like it pervades more of your experience. That can all be part of the process. And by continuing to feel the wholeness of space and the fineness of flow of all experience within it, that natural process of release of what we've held can continue to unfold. And we'll just take a minute here just to be with our own experience as it is, as it continues to unfold and will continue to unfold. And then may like to move, starting with those fingertips. May find it interesting to put a hand on any place where you might have been feeling pain, or just on your heart. and how impactful it can be to know that we can be with our sensations as they are. And gradually coming up, if you're transitioning with us, and then again, would like to offer my thanks to Dr. Les Fehmi, author of Open Focus and Dissolving Pain in Open Focus. And how those practices that I did for so many years have always carried with me and became integrated with the teachings of Master Wanshul Park on nature's flow, just the way everything in nature is, including us, including our difficult experiences and sensations. And thank you all for sharing in this adventure with me here today. And if you have anything about this practice, this experience that you would like to share, would be really interested to hear about your experience. Marta, I'll start with you. Your pain changed place. Yes, very common. Very common. So one way that a couple of things can happen. So, and Marta, feel free to share further in the comments about your experience. One thing that can happen is that literally the pain sensation moves. Sometimes it can kind of spread and flow. Sometimes it can jump. And that's all part of the inner flow of our experience. And overall, and again, this is not medical advice. Should have a caution of warning. But if we think about, right, like what is like a chronic pain, it becomes this pain that feels really, really stuck and more braced around it. And so overall, a change in the pain, like it moving to another place, can be interpreted as, okay, yeah, we got movement this time. Wow, and you might need to do several sessions to kind of follow the trailhead of your pain. So that's definitely one scenario that can be good to be aware of. Another thing that can happen is that the primary, most like kind of dominant sensation in your experience can dissolve. It can dissolve or lessen, so that then in contrast, another area actually feels more prominent in our experience. And the encouragement that Dr. Fehmi gave for that kind of an experience was actually to not immediately go to the next pain. but to really continue to see if, like, he would talk about, like, is there any shadow of the pain in that initial area. And some of the reason why he would do that, because it's like that like shadow, that hint, that memory of the pain there, then when you end the practice, becomes the seed from which the kind of clumped, bunched, I got pain there, begins to grow again in our perception. So that's why he would recommend, like, if you're doing a dissolving pain session, if one dissolves a lot and another one seems more prominent, to really see if you can even get that subjective rating all the way down to 0, not just like a 1 or a 2. So I'm just passing that along as something that Dr. Fehmi recommended. And then, of course, if you're doing another session and there's this other pain and it's more dominant, to work with that. Let's see. Rita, my first time, and many thanks, as I'm recovering from influenza and was able to breathe easier and possibly nodded off. Well, greetings from, greetings, Rita, in Australia. I see Palini is also here. So we have 2 Australians. And so sorry that you have the recovering from the influenza. So glad that it helped ease the, right? Because there's just such when we're in pain, there's such a instinctual wanting to brace around the pain. Like even us holding our breath when we're in pain, right? And influenza is also an interesting one, and in some later sessions, we'll actually go into some possibilities for, like, what if you just feel like a whole body malaise, or a whole body fatigue, or whole body kind of fog. And definitely all the practices can apply to that, but it's also a little bit interesting because it can be a little more subtle to work with, since it's less definitely in one place. So that will be something that we can, I often say play with. It's kind of funny to say play with pain, but I think that kind of an attitude can be helpful, because then like we're experimenting with our own perception, open to what's possible. And that kind of attitude actually tends to shift our perception more easily than, oh, we're gonna make this pain go away. Molly says, I'm sold on meditation helps alleviate pain. Yeah. It really does. And Lisa, welcome from or Lise, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing, welcome from the Netherlands. I see some of you put in your levels of pain, and we have some high levels of pain here. 7, 8. Ariana, thank you for joining. If anyone would like to share what their pain rating is here now. Good to see you, Matt. See a couple other people coming by. Rita says, your session also eased my mindset, as I'm a runner and active and unable to be active has taken its toll mentally on me. So it's eased my mental pain a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I really feel about that, Rita, where when I was 18, I went from being tri-varsity athlete in high school to being bedridden with illness that took many years for people to diagnose as Lyme disease. And I think one of the things that even pain researchers more and more come to understand is that our mental pain and our experience of physical pain feed back into each other. So if, we're feeling like mentally off and we can't do the things that we need to do and we're worried about this and that, and we have this physical pain in our body, from influenza, from whatever it may be, that those two aspects feed back into each other to magnify our experience of pain. And one of the things that we will be doing in future sessions as well too is, and Rita, you were already experiencing this here today, is that when we can kind of untangle that mass of mental and physical and the worries, that is like one of the things that's really hard about pain is that we project it into the future. It's like this tangle of all this experience that's happening in time. So it's not just like our moment by moment experience of this sensation, but it's like, what does this mean? And what does this mean for my life? And what does this mean for my, day? And what, it's just, and on and on and on. And of course, this is nothing revolutionary here. Many people have pointed out the suffering that we cause ourselves by not just feeling fully in the moment. And I think that one of the ways that feeling nature's flow helps us is like, yeah, we're going to have those thoughts, we're going to have those concerns. They're normal, natural. And again, like it's like this approach where we're not trying to get rid of something, we're not trying to focus on it or away from it, but we actually feel the underlying way of nature's flow, which is that it's unfolding whole. The integrity of, however I move my arms or whatever I'm, experiencing, I'm not going to break free of this one whole space of this room. The one whole space of my body, the one whole space of my the sensations unfolding. And so like that's another thing that we'll be playing with, is this way that as we feel nature's flow, we could say our pain is contained. It doesn't go out into all of time. It's just contained in the now, but the now feels so spacious. And so that's another part of like, yeah, I mean, I remember experiencing these shifts with, Dr. Fehmi's guided tapes. And by the way, he was like, you need to do it at least, it's like a 30-minute guided, and then another extra 20 minutes for dissolving pain. He's like, you need to do it at least like 2 to 3 times a day. Like I was in enough pain where it's like, okay, that's easy. I'm already bedridden. Let me do this. But just so you know that it's a shift in our perception, but that it does allow for, you know, these seemingly like magical shifts of our experience, but that can be that it's just we're just clarifying our perception of the way things are, very, very simply, and that can guide us. Rita says, yes, yes, thanks for understanding, Mackenzie. Oh, I'm glad. Suzanne says, maybe a 6 feels less concentrated. Yeah. Yeah. Again, that kind of more diffuse can be a good sign, right? Less like a knot, more diffused. And there are free tracks up on my profile. Just post this. There's several more I want to add, and I will add one of these dissolving pain ones as soon as I can, so that you can have access to it to repeat, because it is a practice, and the more one repeats this shift in this mode of our perception, clarifies our perception, and we can really access more of our birthright of this open and effortless awareness in which sensations come, they stay for a time, and then, like everything else, they change rather than them feeling locked, so stuck, embraced within our experience. Well, to everyone here and to anyone experiencing pain, giving you big hugs. And I believe it's Wednesday at this time that we'll go further in these adventures, probably going more into feeling the fine free flow, so that these sensations can be felt not only spaciously, but also more freely. Let them flow.